sound guy. Say what's up, sound guy.
Yo, what up?
That's Ernesto
In the house.
in the hizzy.
And who do we have over here in the corner?
I already forgot everybody's names. Hi.
Roger. It's
Are you guys
RJ.
like a husband and wife team?
Yeah.
You are, huh?
Dynamic duo.
I kind of picked up on that. Oh, this is cool. Can you hear me over here okay? Yeah?
I can't.
Get
Huh?
the test.
Oh, the lab?
No, you.
Oh, I can't turn it up enough for the
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, Jerry Garza? Zach Morris, what's up, dude? What's up, y'all? We'll be on in a few. Brad Miller, hang tight with us. We'll be on in a minute. We're setting up the shot now. Roy, what's up, dude? Oh, man, I love you too. Scott, what's up? Krista, all right, yeah. We're about ready to get down. Oh, hey. Come on in, Michael.
All right, we can fade out and start the show if you like.
Huh?
We can fade out
Yeah,
and start the
let's
show.
fade out and drop it in.
All right, we're
Do you
on
got a
the-
lav on Michael? You got him laved up?
No, you're gonna share the same because it gets the same. It's okay as long as they're 5 feet
You
away
want
from
that?
each other.
And here's your mic.
There we go.
I do it this way so it can be intimate.
And make sure you get the mic nice and close.
What's up, Travis? Oh, look, we got homie from Australia. Are you comfy?
Boom, boom. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, we're fading out. Here we go.
Bada bing.
What? Our opinions aren't reflective of the man. Yeah, here we are. Rock to Recovery Radio, and I think it might be episode 12. I think that's what we're on right now, episode 12. But who knows? Is it really important? It's really not. So I'm your host, Wesley Gear. Like I said, this is Rock to Recovery Radio. We are on, the phones are already going crazy. That's not my phone. We are on KX 93.5 FM, Human Crafted Radio, Laguna's only FM. This show is brought to you also by New Vista Behavioral Health. They are friends of mine, but they're an amazing program that helps a lot of different types of people that need treatment for various disorders, addiction, mental health, etc. So we thank you to those people for bringing us on the air and giving us the chance to do this. Why are we here? Why is Rock to Recovery Radio here? Because I'm passionate about recovery. The station wanted a recovery radio show, and it just kind of worked out that we get to have this amazing show. What we do is we interview rad humans or celebrities, rock stars, all sorts of cool people who've had a recovery story of their own. But the thing we like to highlight is for so many, it's not just about recovering and surviving and having this just mundane, horrible, depressive life. It's about recovering and getting into what I like to call it the vortex of radness, when it's like, what? Life can be this good? Who knew? So, in our endeavor to bring you rad guests, wow, we got a special one tonight. I can't wait to get in this. I did a little reading. I never like to go too far because I like the discovery portion of it all. But we got a gentleman, and correct me if I misspeak on any of this, but played with Iggy Pop, played with New York Dolls, yeah, Chubby Checker, right? Did I miss anybody?
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis, that's right. Oh my gosh.
Little Richard.
I mean,
yeah.
Come on, this is insane. And what was it the same instrument in all?
Yeah, I'm a bass player mainly because nobody else wanted to do it.
And it worked out for you.
It worked out.
Right. And so we're here with Michael Page. Michael Page, welcome. So stoked you're here.
Thanks,
and
man.
then you went on to do some other amazing stuff, which we can get into a little later in the story. So thank you for making the pilgrimage out of Los Angeles down here
I haven't
to
been to
Laguna Beach.
Laguna for a long time, and I just kind of forgot how beautiful it is.
It's not a bad place to come to, is it?
Just beautiful. We watch the sunset down the street.
Oh, I love it.
Attitude of gratitude.
Yeah. That's
So
a big
thankful.
deal, isn't it?
So thankful.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too. I'm really into like law of attraction and energy and stuff. And when we're in that grateful place, the energy that's coming out of us is just so good to bring more of that stuff that we're grateful for, right?
I had it explained to me by a friend once that had a recovery clinic
Yeah.
or whatever, right? And he was doing really, really well. Was really successful with his business. And when he looked at my background, he said, we have a lot of things in common.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe he was talking about music. And he said, no, it's guys like us that when we wake up each morning with our face knotted in the mud is a day in paradise.
Yeah.
Normal people probably couldn't understand that or don't
Right.
need to understand it, but we live differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grateful for not having to live the way that we were living.
Living.
for a long
Not to
time.
wake up and grab a syringe, not to wake up and grab a whiskey bottle, not to wake up and look for a bindle of cocaine, not to wake up and go, another day of this hell? Why?
You have the opportunity to live life
Yeah.
on life's terms.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I remember the days of towards the end for me of waking up and just like I didn't want to get loaded, but I had to because otherwise I wouldn't be able to literally walk across the room, and it was so miserable. Like, this again, miserable. So, but this isn't about me. This is about you, my friend. And like I said, I'm stoked you're here. So,
Well, that's not entirely true. I didn't know that you were the guitar player with Korn.
that's true.
And it was like, oh my gosh. So I wanted to turn this around and interview you.
Oh shoot. Well,
I had a lot of questions. Are you originally from Laguna Beach?
no. I'm originally from all over the place.
From all over. Where, basically, what area?
Born in Fullerton, and
Southern California.
yeah. Then at 5, I went to Massachusetts when my parents split up, and then at 10 came back, and it was Fountain Valley, Yorba Linda, El Toro, Lake Forest, you name it, Costa
And
Mesa.
You started getting interested in music at a young age.
Yeah, 14. You have switched the tables on me, haven't you?
14.
Yeah.
That's when.
14 or 15, yeah.
Do you remember the songs?
Well, I grew up on classical music, right? My family was, classical musicians. So when I heard my brother play Smoke on the Water, which is just simple fourths, it was like, and I was like, what is that? Because it stuck out instead of like this beautiful, melodic interplay of everything. And then I think for me after that, it was certain things. It was like the twang of B-52's guitar. It was Eddie Van Halen down tuning because he was down to D sharp and would drop, so it was C sharp. Bow, dow, dow, dow. I love that chunky guitar. And then hearing hammer-ons, like Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen doing Eruption and all that stuff, I was like, I gotta learn how they make
So
these
you
sounds.
started out playing guitar.
Yeah.
Guitar was your first instrument.
Well, I played trumpet when I was a kid, but that doesn't count.
Did you have music in your family?
Yeah.
I mean, did your family play?
Yeah.
Did they play instruments?
My grandma played violin in the Boston Pops, and my grandfather was the music director of a church in Cohasset. So he taught everybody every instrument and arranged music for the carillon, which is the bell tower where each note of the piano is a bell. So he would take classical pieces and was famous for transposing. And these levers are hard to push, but he would go through like Bach on there, and he could tour the bell towers, but of course there's only so many. But he was kind of, I don't know, he was a rock star in that sense, yeah.
When did you actually start thinking about possibly, you start playing in bands. How old were you when you started playing in bands?
Oh, I don't know, in the first band. We had the first garage band with like no drummer and no singer when I was like 16, yeah. And you name it and all that. Yeah,
But
the
then
dream
you-
started really early, yeah.
But then you developed into, at one point did you want to do it as a career, or did you think of it doing it as a career?
Oh, very early on. Yeah.
And
He
then-
has switched this on me. I'm going to switch it back, though.
I'm definitely interested in this. It's,
Yeah, early on. It was basically, and my friends would say, you don't think you can make it. Because back then, making it was a whole different thing. Getting the record deal, you couldn't self-produce at home like nowadays. And I would turn on the radio and go, well, I can do that. I can play that song. Why can't I make it? Why not? You know? It was a little more, I don't know, it seemed a little more obtainable than if I went to see like a violinist virtuoso play. Like, I can't do that. I can't touch that. But I could listen to, like, you know, Motley Crue and Iron Maiden and Dead Kennedys and B-52s and go, yeah, I could pull that off. Let's go.
That's interesting. That all that music is like, it's different for me. When I was young, I was introduced to blues.
Yeah.
Really lucked out.
Yeah.
I was with a group of older guys that turned me on to Howlin' Wolf and Robert Johnson, Charlie Patton, all those things in the beginning. This was just right around Beatles time. So, and when the Stones came
So it's
out,
mid-60s?
I'm really bad with the years.
Yeah, me
and all
too.
that, really bad.
Yeah.
A lot of lost years, whatever. But I was really lucky because to have that as a foundation for your musical foundation. It's only 3 chords basically.
Right. 1, 4,
But
5.
it's also the root of all music.
It's feeling.
Rock and roll, 3 chords.
Yeah.
I always say everything breaks down to Louie Louie. Just your 3 chord rock and roll is the important things. And, you know, I got a gig with Chubby Checker, playing with Chubby. I
Right.
played with Chubby for a lot of years, 340 shows a year.
Wow.
That's a
Now,
lot.
I don't think anybody, if this is a trivia question, how many shows did Chubby Checker play per year? Anybody even come close to that? That's insane.
Now, I got a trivia question. How did you know how Chubby's got his? You know what his name is?
No.
Chubby was discovered by Dick Clark and his wife,
Okay.
and they were in Pennsylvania at a farmer's market, and they heard somebody singing.
Okay.
And they followed the voice, and they found Chubby plucking chickens in an alley in a farmer's market thing.
Wow.
So they talked with him and told him, you have a really interesting voice. Would you be interested in possibly singing? And
Right.
we can record. And they said, absolutely. So they set it up, and he recorded a really stupid folk song or whatever. And then when it came time to make a record, they said, well, his name was Ernest Evans. And they said, that's not going to fly. At the time, they had Fabian, and
Right.
people had stage names.
Yeah.
They asked him who Chubby's favorite singer was, and he said it was Fats Domino was his favorite singer. So his Dick Clark's wife put Fats Domino with Chubby.
Oh my
Checker.
gosh,
She
it makes
came up with
so
that
much
name.
sense. Chubby Checker, Fats
That's a good
Domino.
one.
It's so obvious.
And it was so
How did we
much
not figure that out?
fun every night singing Shibapa Shubap, Shibapa Shubap, Shibapa Shubap, Shibapa Shubap.
That's
I was
so
like,
cool.
How did I get here?
Ah.
How did I do this? This is just absolutely amazing.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Love those stories.
Of
Yeah.
course, the people that we would play with, we're doing shows with Pat Boone and the Monkees, the Grassroots. I just told my buddy we did a show, the Monkees, the Seeds. And this isn't back in the day. This is like after the Dolls, the whole thing, just before I got
Okay.
my gig with Iggy Pop.
Right.
So, but I mean, for the experience of getting to travel the world, everybody wants to do the twist and have fun, and it brings back a real positive thing.
Yeah.
Every night, people come up and do the limbo,
Uh-huh.
and the pony, the fly, the hucklebuck, the twist again, mashed potatoes, all those songs. My favorite songs in the world as a little kid, growing up and just playing them in the band. And being a bass player is not real challenging. So I would spend my energy on enjoying the crowd and the energy.
Yeah.
But we're doing shows with Little Richard and Chuck Berry, Fats Domino. I got to be friends with all these guys.
Wow.
And bottom line is I'm a hardcore fan. And I would
That's
listen
the
to these
best.
people that are just like my gods and my idols.
Yeah.
And next thing, knowing them and hanging and being on first name basis was just a thrill.
I
You
can
figure
imagine.
that's a lot of shows to play in a year. Many of them 2 nights, 2 shows a night,
Yeah.
whatever. But you know, I'm young, good looking, pretty much footloose and fancy free.
Yeah.
And we're playing in places like Swaziland in Africa,
Wow.
which I fell in love with Africa. And I was there when apartheid was going on the first time. And my second trip back was in Cape Town. I fell in love with the place, with the music and the people and the whole thing. Actually, I'm trying to work to get back to Africa. That
I'm
was
sure
all
you'll do it.
All the places that I've been, that's the one. Who would have thunk
Right.
when I got there?
Life's
listened
kind
to
of
them.
that way, right?
is.
It kind of the stuff that you think you won't like is like, wow, I'm glad I tried that, whatever it is, because now that's my favorite thing. And all those songs you did, what I wanted to point out, some people may not know, they're all dances that went
They're all
along
dances.
with the songs. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, so it was kind of thing you did back then. Like, if you're gonna write a hit, you wanted a dance to go along with it, the twist, the mashed potato, all that. I think they got the Running Man and the Moonwalk, and then after that it was kind of Cabbage Patch.
We did a show.
Just not the same.
At the Chicago Fest. It's the largest outdoor festival of the U.S.
Yes.
And with Little Richard and Chuck Berry
Little
and Bo
Richard.
Diddley and Chubby.
Wow.
And we were playing the song, and I'm looking at 200,000 people out there, and he's singing The Fly, and The Fly has got this dance with it's like a Soupy Sales thing or whatever, and you see all those people all doing that. It was just absolutely
Incredible. Nobody would have a clue these days, except the older, crowd. But like younger kids, I don't know. I don't know that they go back that far in the music. I know a lot of kids are discovering Doors, Zeppelin, and the Beatles and stuff. But that classic rock and roll, such a beautiful time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, let's tie in your story of addiction, where that took place. When did you pick up?
Well, I found out later that I have a lot of my family, that my grandfather, I think my father found my grandfather dead of alcohol poisoning during Prohibition. He had drank bathtub gin, bad bathtub gin or whatever. So I found out later that it runs in the family.
So that's like the 30s when they had Prohibition, yeah?
So trying to figure out when,
We already decided we're not good with years.
yeah.
I know.
Well, it was it seemed like it was a natural transition. What do you do at 2 o'clock in the morning after you finish playing
I
a
know.
major show?
You got
Couple
you're high
100,000
already.
People, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. How do you go to
Yeah.
bed?
Yeah.
And then you're jumping the bus and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And after you do that for a while, drinking was just a part of what it was. And I was always a good drunk. I was always responsible. I would never be drunk for a show.
Yeah.
And when you're done, that's just what you do. You jump
Yeah.
on the bus and you drink yourself to sleep or whatever. After doing it for years and years, alcohol never really played a problem with any of the stuff back in New York. Everybody was, they drank or whatever, alcohol.
Seemed normal.
Back then it was dope. That was the big one. And of course I got hooked
Dope
up.
meaning heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got hooked up with the Dolls with Johnny Thunders and all that. Sylvain always kept me away from Johnny for a good reason for that. Because all that stuff, it just doesn't work.
So at first you're drinking, right? And it was no big deal. Everybody drinks. I'm drinking after the show. You're not getting in trouble. And who are you playing with at that time?
Well, I've been touring since
Yeah.
I can remember.
Yeah.
So I did it kind of too much. I did it for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Non-stop for a lot of years.
What was
So-
the first band you toured with?
Well, as a kid, I played with the King Biscuit Blues Band.
I heard about
we
that.
were based in San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And doing those kind of Robert Johnson, Charlie Patton stuff. It was just pre-Canned Heat, about the time Canned Heat was coming
Okay.
out. There weren't any white blues bands. John
Right.
Mayall in England, that was about it. But I met a girl, Elizabeth Willard, in San Diego. She was from La Jolla, and she had a talk with me and told me, you don't belong here in this town. If you have aspirations to do things, and you'll be in the best blues band in San Diego when you're an old man. You need to come and check out and see what's going on in New York. There's painters, there's sculptors, there's art is happening, rock and roll music is happening. There's a cultural explosion happening. You owe it to yourself to check it out.
Right.
So at some point, I end up moving to New York City against all my friends.
We're not sure what year that is.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. This is really interesting too. What was happening? I was engaged to be married with a girl, and she fell in love with Iggy.
Oh.
Right.
This
And
is when after you
this
went to
is
New
way,
York.
like,
You went to New York.
Before, there was a reason I went to New York.
Okay, right.
So she fell in love with Iggy, and which obviously we're not getting married anymore.
Right.
Iggy wasn't into having a relationship or whatever.
Right.
And so I ended up heartbroken in San Diego, and it was like, I don't want to be here anymore in this
Right.
town. It's time, I think I was 21 years old, and it was time to experiment to see what was going on. Well, this girl telling me, you should come back, you could stay at my place.
Even though I'm gonna try to get with Iggy, you could stay at my place.
No, this is another girl, Elizabeth Willard, the girl that told
gotcha.
me that I owed it to her. So she was in Little Italy in New York, and I took her up on it. And I went back. I had nothing to lose.
Right.
And I went back to New York, and I wanted to check out this band, the New York Dolls.
Right.
And I wanted to see what was going on with them because I saw they were voted the best new band of the year, Rolling Stone, and the worst new band of the year at the same time.
Right.
And I just loved their shit.
Isn't it always like that?
Yeah.
It's like Led Zeppelin gets a bad review, Prince got a bad review. I mean, it seems like a lot of great
Well,
bands.
when the
get
Dolls
that.
came out, it was a pretty boring music situation at the time, and they
Right.
came, just kicked the doors in with
Yeah.
this American kick-ass Rolling Stones type rock and roll, and their personalities and the whole thing. It was just crazy, and it started the fire in New York, the Mercer Arts Center and the whole thing. It started a giant movement, and it was funny. After I got back there and started meeting all the musicians, I saw the Ramones. Everybody was inspired by the New York Dolls. They were kings of New York.
Yeah.
So I go back to visit this girl, and Elizabeth, and I got involved in theater. She knew theater people. So I got my first job with John Waters, the movie, now he's movie
Heard
director.
the name. Yeah.
Back then he was doing, it was right around Pink Flamingos time, and he was doing off-Broadway theater productions. So I got hired to play music, score the music for the off-Broadway productions. It's all theater.
You're a busy man
All the people
at a young age.
All the people in Lou Reed's song, Take a Walk on the Wild Side.
Yeah.
They were all the people I was associating with. Jackie thought she was James Dean for a day. That was Jackie Curtis.
Wow.
Taylor Mead, Sugar Plum Fairy. All these people were local people that lived in the village that this girl introduced me to, and got me hooked up with the Theater of the Ridiculous, and which is a very avant-garde underground New York thing. So I got involved in theater, writing music for that first. And I happened to run into a girl, physically knocked into her in the street, Janet Planet, and
It's a great name.
spilled coffee on her. And she started screaming at me, "You idiot, why don't you watch what you're doing?" But Paige, what are you doing here? And I was like, "Janet, what are you doing here?"
Oh my gosh.
So I told her, I want to check out this band, the New York Dolls. She tells me, "I'm marrying the guitar player, Sylvain. He's right around the corner. You want to meet him?"
Wow.
Within, I don't know, 10 days or whatever, they were having problems with Arthur, with this drug and alcohol thing. And I looked like an identical twin.
I wish I could see a picture of you.
At the time, it's pretty hilarious. So that was my intention, was to try to get in with the Dolls. They were breaking up right then. Johnny and Jerry were doing the Heartbreakers, and they were going to reform as the new New York Dolls or whatever. We started our own group called the Criminals. It was 4 of the Dolls and myself, and got a record deal with RCA. And then that's when I got a job offer for Chubby Checker.
Wow.
And I knew that was going to be. And Chubby hired me to modernize his band because we were all wearing red patent leather. When I showed up, he goes, "Not
You
that,
want some of that
not
New York
that
Dolls
modern.
flavor." Yeah.
Not that modern."
So let's take a quick break here and throw in the first song that you selected, right? Do you want to set it up?
Which song is it?
New York Dolls, Personality Crisis, New York Dolls.
We got a New York Dolls song
Oh,
that you wanted to play,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You want to set up this song?
it speaks for itself.
You think so? Okay. All right. Why didn't it, I don't know what song you picked.
Personality Crisis.
Personality Crisis.
Personality Crisis, New York City.
Yeah. All right. So here we are, Rock to Recovery Radio. We're here with Michael Page. This is New York Dolls.
Cool.
Record still sounds great. Doesn't it sound good?
Rock and roll.
For sure. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. So,
22.
yeah, so we'll take a journey now. We've set up the band you're playing in, and now let's get into the journey of when some of the problems started to develop with the drinking and using.
Well, that comes from the transition from Chubby to Iggy.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then also everything that was going on in New York. Everyone that aspired to that lifestyle didn't know that it had limitations.
Because it's new.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was all new, no
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah.
When you come back, back on the air, I'm gonna be up as a drill because this is gonna be a really good shot as in like an intro. So
Yeah.
whatever you say, we're back on the
Yeah,
air.
yeah.
You know, mate, but I'm gonna be in the drill. So
No problem.
You know me, just ignore me. I
No
don't exist
problem.
over here. I'm a good.
Hey, Tria. What's up,
Sorry,
girl?
that's the way.
Hang tight. We're on
I get
commercial
low
break
energy.
right now.
I can hear it. I can hear something. I don't see it.
Yeah, good.
I can hear, but I don't
I can see your guys' dental work.
Yeah, they get a little too close sometimes.
Yeah, because we're at about 22 minutes, and time will start going fast through the second half of the show. So we'll want to get into like I was saying, some of the problems that developed and what made you crash and burn, and then how you got out. So
Yeah.
we'll kind of do like what it was like, what happened, what it's like now in there.
Okay, well, let's go from where we are, from the dolls, and we'll get into short little chubby thing, and to Iggy.
Yeah. Cool.
We'll do Iggy, and then
Just a breakdown.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't there a famous show where New York Dolls played and then the theater started crumbling?
what's this now?
In New York City, didn't the New York Dolls play a famous show and literally the building started crumbling? No?
I don't know.
Is that just legend? Maybe it's just a urban legend.
Well, they were definitely the kings of New York. It just started the whole thing.
Hey, Jim, what's up, dude?
Hey, Mike,
Glad you're
can you
listening,
get the mic
man.
A little bit closer, please?
Yes, yeah, sure.
It's my buddy. Hey, Jim, I just found out that Dana is your niece. I know Dana.
Yeah.
Still got to talk into the mic a little bit.
Can't listen to stuff without laughing.
So we got 30.
Yeah, I saw the dolls on the Don Kirshner rock concert.
Ten seconds.
That song is still so relevant to where we're at with celebrity and Instagram models. Hey, we're back on Rock to Recovery Radio. This is Wes Gear, and I'm your host on KX 93.5 FM, Laguna's only FM. And it's also brought to you by New Vista Behavioral Health. And we're sitting here with a legend in his own right, bass player for Iggy Pop, New York Dolls, Chubby Checker. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Criminals.
The Criminals. Don't forget.
Rosie Flores.
Rosie Flores. He's played with every... It's just rock and roll royalty all the way through. All the way through. So, Mr. Michael Page, we're talking about your story and how you moved to New York after some heartbreak. And you got in the New York Dolls, right?
Well, the dolls thing was really, it was breaking up right at the time. So Sylvain, it was, I pretty much kind of started hanging out with Syl
Yeah.
through Janet, and gave him the confidence of what, that he could do something on his own. He had written a lot of the songs and was a good singer or whatever. It was all being negotiated. Then
Yeah.
David got his solo album. David Johansen got his solo album, so we split off. Instead of doing the new New York Dolls or whatever, we formed the Criminals and
Nice.
got our gig there. But the big thing about New York was the community of what was happening.
Right.
When I first went to CBGB's the first time, because I'm a West Coast guy, San Diego, I'd go to get Rock Scene magazine, just like surfers get Surfer magazine or golfers get Golf Digest.
Yeah.
I would get Rock Scene and Circus and Cream and all this, and look at the rock and roll guys, the bands that were happening, and would see what was happening in New York. And I'd never been involved in a scene where it was so supportive. Every night we would go out to CBGB's, Max's Kansas City, Gildersleeve, a small handful of clubs,
Yeah.
mainly CBGB's and Max's, and there was support. We'd go see the Dead Boys. They would come and see us play.
That's
They would
so
see
cool.
the Ramones. We'd see Blondie and the Talking Heads. There was a lot
That's
of the music
amazing.
there that I really wasn't getting. I saw Devo the first time with 5 people in the audience, and they were mind-blowing. I saw television play the first time. I
Oh,
didn't get
television.
it. It went over my head. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of non-musical stuff. Where I came from a background, you had to be a
You were
musician.
playing blues, and yeah, some of the more theatrical stuff was probably a little bit weird, huh?
Yeah, people were, but then being exposed to the theater part was more of an expanding thing.
Yeah,
But
so
it was a communal deal, and there was movements that were happening. All started from the Dolls.
That's amazing.
And then-
Yeah, and we've seen similar stuff like that happen in Los Angeles. I went through it with some of the bands, and it was like Korn and Deftones and System of a Down and Incubus. We all played together, and I don't know. Are there scenes like that in America anymore? It doesn't feel like it.
Well, scenes have always changed, right?
Yeah, just doesn't seem the same as it used to
Then
be.
London,
Yeah,
then Seattle.
London's always been good.
I hear now Florida. I just don't know about music now.
I know. We get a little
I do
older, huh?
I do have a fun story for this. I introduced my daughter. I was working with David Bowie a little bit, and I went to go see him play with Tin Machine, and I brought my
Wow.
daughter. And my daughter Nina, I think she was 4 or 5 years old. David ended up giving her piggyback rides around the dressing room, and it
That's
was,
incredible.
and she was her uncles, like her Uncle David and her Uncle Iggy, whatever, her girlfriends growing up.
That's
That
amazing.
didn't mean anything to any of them at the time. But
What an amazing time you got to grow up in.
yeah,
Just being around all that. Music
From-
was so pure. And
from New York, there was so much going on in New York. And also, then it bled into the manager, Malcolm McLaren, was managing the Dolls back in New York. And Malcolm took, he had a shop called Sex, that was a clothing store.
Yeah.
Working with Vivian Westwood,
Yeah,
who was a designer. Now she's big designer, has been for a
has
long
been for
time.
years, yeah.
But Malcolm went back and had taken what he had learned from the Dolls about manipulating the media.
Right.
And started the Sex Pistols. Malcolm owned the name, the Sex Pistols. He owned Johnny Rotten name.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that they were kind of like the first boy band, if you will.
Yeah, the Sex Pistols put together like
Put
that.
together,
but also
yeah.
was, the timing was right.
Perfect,
And it was,
yeah.
There's a lot of bad stuff going on in England. There was No Future, whatever was
yeah,
going on.
the music's
they
great.
based a 3-chord rock thing with a different
So good.
deal. So then the scene went to there.
So let's talk a little bit about where your addiction is going. So you're in the scene. You said you're drinking and using, right? And when did it? And it was okay. That's what everybody was doing. We were talking about on the break. Back then, it's not like now where we know kind of the pitfalls of addiction. We know how many people have died. We've watched rock stars not make it into adult life, right? The 27 Club, et cetera, et cetera. But back then, there wasn't so much knowledge about it. It was kind of
Absolutely
experimenting. So when did you start? When did it start twisting from drinking and hanging out with all these cool people in the scene to like, wow, this is not so good. I have a problem. I'm taking it too far. What was the first?
Well, it actually happened after the last tour that I did with Iggy was called The Breaking Point.
Yeah.
Um,
And you were just drinking on that tour?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just drinking.
When did you
drugs
pick-
weren't really allowed.
Who didn't allow him? Iggy?
Iggy wouldn't allow drugs. And
Did Iggy drink back then?
I wasn't interested in drugs anyway. Really,
You weren't
I mean,
there?
Coke. We all did Coke. I didn't think of that as being a
Okay,
drug.
wait, right?
That's not it.
Let's quantify that statement. This is so great for addicts and stuff. We love to do that. I used to do that with weed. Well, weed's not really a drug.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, beer's
there's
not-
no drugs
beer's not
allowed.
food.
Iggy didn't allow drugs. I mean, well, Coke, but that doesn't count. We're talking cocaine here. I mean, that's a drug, my man. I mean, so let me get this straight. Iggy was like, hey,
Well, see, we did cocaine when it wasn't addictive.
well, okay, oh, wow, okay, I never tried that.
Nobody ever thought about any of that.
Well, you didn't know, right? It was like cocaine.
It
This
was
is the
just
new
something
stuff.
you did.
Right.
It was like, you drink a lot, and then you got a show coming up, and you drank
Gotta
a little
do
too
some
much,
blow.
so you got to come up to it.
Yeah, but it's not a drug. It's just cocaine.
Then it ends
So
up
what?
just being
What?
not
Here's the
fun.
question: what was a drug? So Iggy doesn't allow drugs, but drinking and cocaine, which isn't a drug, is okay. What is the line that is like, hey, don't have that back here? Would it be heroin?
Yeah.
That would be it. And
Yeah.
but what about like mushroom and acid? Did anybody care about that?
No, I think people kind of outgrew that.
They outgrew it. They
Yeah.
didn't care.
And
Yeah.
it's just the things of the day or whatever.
Because I feel like if people are on acid or mushrooms, you're like, oh, you're just tripping, it's no big deal. But people start doing heroin and speed, you're like, whoa, dude,
Right.
that's some heavy,
Yeah.
what.
Well, the last tour we did called The Breaking Point. It was, I think, Japan,
Ominous
Hawaii,
words.
Japan, Hawaii, Australia, whatever. It was a long
This is with
tour.
Iggy,
Yeah. And we figured somebody was probably going to die on that tour.
just from drinking and cocaine.
Yeah, with the amount of everything that we were
I say
doing.
just from drinking and cocaine.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody knows drinking
The
and
amount-
cocaine, you could
the
get
amounts
pretty.
we were doing were people die, and
People
you know,
die.
You don't really think of that while you're doing it,
Right.
kind of a lot of that stuff we kind of invented.
It was new. Had you seen any ODs at this time? Like, whoa, the weirdest thing happened the other night, so and so.
Yeah. Not really my close friends. Because
But you heard
I didn't
rumors and stories?
See, the dope thing, when you do dope, you associate with that. Everyone knows where
Right.
that's going, and you end up a junkie and you die.
Yeah.
The alcohol thing takes a lot longer.
It's a
and
slow
it's,
one,
It's
yeah.
more socially accepted until you
Yeah.
get stupid or whatever. Coke was seemed to be more of a fad or whatever that came. People needed to try it out. But I didn't get, my problems happened when I decided to stop touring. 'Cause I had toured for
Okay.
so many years. The last tour that I did with Iggy, we were flying back on the plane, and he had a talk with me and saying, I might not be able to keep you on retainer, because he would put me on retainer.
Gotcha.
So
For people that don't know, that's when you're home not touring, you still get a paycheck. So
that's
you're
right,
getting
right.
paid
I
even
had
though the band's
I
not
had
active.
An opportunity to tour with Billy Idol. I was
Wow.
because I played in some good bands and I had a good name
Sure.
at the time. So
Yeah,
I had
pedigree.
opportunities to do that, but then I would be paid to keep my health together and to be fresh.
So
on the
when
new
you,
tour.
after the last tour with Iggy, did you no longer got retainer?
Well, on the plane on the way home, we talked about it. I introduced him to his girl at the time, Suchi, who he ended up marrying from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he had gotten a couple movie offers, a couple different things, and was thinking of just taking a break for a while.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't be able to keep me on retainer. Didn't know the direction of what he was going to do, but he
Sure.
wanted to. slow
How'd you
down.
take that?
It made total sense, and I wanted.
Were you okay with it?
Yeah.
Because you get gigs endlessly anyhow.
I
You're
met
like,
a
yeah,
girl,
that's all right.
And I wanted to get married. I wanted to have an address. I hadn't had an address. People don't understand what that's like. If you
Yeah.
don't have an address and you can't.
You're a road dog.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
which was fun for a long, long time.
So how old are you about at this point?
Probably getting around 30
Right.
or whatever it was like.
So you're like, hey, I would like to actually have a home to call
have
my
a home.
home.
And so I met a girl, and we
Yeah.
decided to do that. And it happened at perfect timing. We just did a tour with the Rolling Stones, and how much more can I do in this? It's like I exceeded my expectations.
With music
So, I didn't expect any of that.
Yeah.
No, it was all just gravy and everything and fun. But then it got to be a point where it was more, not that it was work. I don't know, it was a natural transgression. I think of myself as being more than just a traveling touring. There's more to life.
Sure. I think
So,
all of us
On that
musicians
tour,
go
I
through
ended
that.
up moving to Northern California, Mendocino.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had a big racehorse ranch up there, and we had a baby. And I became kind of a regular guy and lost my interest in touring,
Yeah.
traveling. I'd pretty much seen it and wanted to get into the next phase of what it was. That's when I started running into the problems, because I was used to waking up and having a glass of wine or whatever it was. And my drinking is, like I said, I was never bullish or a mean drunk.
Right.
I'd repeat myself and get a little slurry or whatever, but never really bothersome. But
Right.
it's, as I learned later, it's a fatal progressive disease.
Yeah.
And it would get worse and worse. And I would recognize, and I had plenty of money and things to do, but you can't live that lifestyle and be a normal person.
Do you think did you get sad? Did you miss music? Was that
No.
transition weird? No, you were cool with it. You
No,
said
I was
totally
into,
cool with it.
ready to try something new.
'Cause, yeah.
Besides music, I didn't know what, acting or what. I wanted to do soundtracks for a film. I could still
Yeah.
participate in music, but
Right.
not have to travel. I had an interest in doing soundtracks, and that's what I eventually got into.
Because when I did that transition, and I wanted that on one level, there's this other level where I was really depressed, so I didn't know. But you didn't have that, so that's good.
No.
So when did you go to the next level? You're drinking wine at home, and you said, did you start doing
that
heroin?
was just I would just disguise that for coffee, and a clear coffee cup wine would look like coffee, and my wife would
So now
catch
you're
me.
starting to hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And,
what we do.
And then it just got worse and worse, and it's like,
Did you start doing heroin?
then it got, well, I did heroin when I got a couple times in New York, but Sylvain kept it away from me and kept me away from all the people that
Trying
did
to isolate
that kind of
you?
a thing.
Yeah.
And and the reputation, junkies are just,
So you didn't go down the junkie road.
not at that time. I did later when I got a divorce and life became painful and I couldn't handle the pain. You would do dope and it would completely erase it immediately.
So
And
how
you
do
know
we
that
get?
that's not a solution for anything. It comes back the next day, but when it gets
Right.
heavy, it's a one-way, it's a ticket out, temporary, but we all know where that leads to.
It's a temporary solution, right? So how did that transition? You went home, you had a baby, the drinking's getting a little more. What led up to the divorce or the picking up dope? Was it the divorce?
Well, it was all alcohol,
Mhm.
looking back on it now.
Alcohol was causing problems with
It
the
was
marriage.
causing the problems.
Yeah.
And my wife, who I met when we were partying, I asked her to come.
Right.
We were playing with the Stones in Paris. We want to come marry me in Paris and with the Rolling Stones. She said, of course, I wasn't.
Who could say no
She
to
was a
that?
party
I
girl.
would say yes
Yeah.
to marrying you
She
to
was a
Rolling Stones in Paris.
party girl also, and having fun with me doing it. But then when she got pregnant, she was a mom, and she stopped all that. I didn't stop it. That's where
That's a big defining moment because
that's where
I
the
talked.
change started happening.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of friends about that, and like some of us grow up. The people you party with, they kind of either go one of two ways. They either like hang up their beer mug and become adults, or like you and I, what you just said, we don't stop. We keep going, and then it progresses. Right?
Yeah, and either you die, and I see guys like Iggy is not alcoholic. He would drink like a fish, and it would almost kill him, but he just stopped.
Yeah.
And I would try to stop like alcoholics do for periods of time and switch from beer to wine and
Right.
blah blah. We know
Scotch
it
to
all.
brandy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd go periods of time without drinking, but it never really seemed to hinder anything. The kind of jobs that I was doing, working in guitar stores.
Yeah.
And I started building Taylor guitars and.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Down in San
worked
Diego.
as that as a luthier. I was taken in, and I ended up getting a Gibson certificate and a Fender certificate.
Wow.
So I could do guitar, and as long as I had my hands on guitars or doing music or whatever, I was happy, and that was one thing that was going to happen. But the drinking progressed more and more.
And caused problems with your marriage. And then you guys got a divorce.
We got divorced, and it was, I would say, 98% of the alcohol.
Was the drinking, yeah.
Think
And
so.
you said at the time you didn't really think it was, right? Which usually we don't. We're like, what? What's your problem?
That's
right.
right. I
And
don't
then-
have a problem. I like Tom Waits said, I don't have a problem unless I can't find a drink.
Yeah, yeah. And then so what? So you get a divorce, and then how'd you fall into doing dope again?
That was, you could see where that road was going to go. And I guess I wasn't born with a junkie mentality, so I ended up walking away from that. Same with cocaine. Cocaine was a time when it was, this is not fun anymore. This
Right.
is just stupid. You're just doing this as a maintenance thing. It's dumb. So
Yeah.
I ended up just walking away. We never ever had a problem with that. Dope, you know where that's going to go. And I got sick with withdrawals and whatever.
Right,
and
dope
I
sick.
wasn't that enough into it that much where I could see where that was heading, and I pulled out of that. Alcohol had me by the balls, and it was
Gotcha.
just something that I just naturally gravitated to.
So today, in today's lexicon, they would say your drug of choice was alcohol,
Yeah.
right? So
And it would end up, it's just disgusting when you think about. And then you have no hope.
So you're drinking all day, every day,
You're drinking all day,
waking
every
up,
day.
wine.
I would have
your
to
wife's
do-
left you.
I'd
and-
have to do a quart of vodka in the morning to stop from shaking. And then I got the delirium tremens and alcohol withdrawal seizures. So I found out you can die from an alcohol withdrawal seizure. I didn't know that.
Right.
You don't die from heroin withdrawal.
No.
But you can die from. So
Alcohol and benzos are the two things that can kill you with seizures when you're detoxing. If you don't have a medical detox, they
that's
can't
right.
kill you.
I had
Meth
to
and
test
heroin.
That. I had to test that. I didn't believe that, so I had to test it. And I
So
had-
somebody told you ahead of time. You're like, yeah,
I had 6 alcohol withdrawal seizures. I was hospitalized that many times.
6 times.
Hopeless and helpless. A garden variety. I ended up being a garden variety homeless.
That hurts my heart because
Drunk on
I'm
the street.
bonding with you here and loving this person, Michael Page, and knowing that
It
you
hurt
went through
my
that.
friends. It hurt my family. It destroyed everything that I was.
And so, how'd you get out? Wait, actually, we're gonna pause right there, and we're gonna throw in your next song.
There we go.
There we go. This is man. Hey, and I thank you so much for sharing with us, Michael Page. And do you know what this next song is?
I believe it's an inspirational. I think it's a David Bowie song.
David Bowie,
Word on a wing.
What is it?
"Word on a Wing."
Oh yeah, yes. I love this song.
So why did you select this song?
It's an emotional. Actually, the song, I thought it was about my girlfriend, Janet, but it was about finding him being at his desperate, most rock bottom time of his life, where he wanted to end it all, and he had a vision of Jesus.
Huh. I didn't know
The
that.
song is about Jesus. I thought it was about my girlfriend.
So here we are, Rock to Recovery Radio, here with Michael Page. This is David Bowie.
Okay, we're good.
You
Thank
talk
you.
off camera.
Yeah, how long, how's it going out there? What's up, Peter? How is, what was I going to say? Now I forgot what I was going to say. This is great. Thank you for sharing. That's what I was going to say. Thank you for your vulnerability and opening up.
Now it gets fun.
Yes.
First we go down a little bit more, and then we go up.
All right, so let's see. We got, what's our time at?
We're at 9:45, and this is a 6-minute song.
We don't have to play all 6 minutes.
We can cut whenever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. We'll play like the first,
These headphones went out. I just
They
haven't
did?
heard anything from
Yeah,
them.
is it me? Does this do anything?
I don't know, you're pointing to that. What does it do?
you're not getting sound back?
Nothing. There it is. There it is.
Got it?
Yeah, you can turn it down.
Remember, the music's louder than the talking. The music's...
Let me know if you need to turn it up, and I'll turn it up if you need it.
Yeah, you can turn it down. Actually, I didn't have anything, so this is something I didn't.
I maybe bumped it or something. Yeah. Leslie Hopkins, what's up? All right, so let's do. How long are we into the song now?
1:30 out of 6:04.
So we'll go to like 2 minutes and then we'll fade
Yeah.
it
All
out.
right, 30 seconds.
Okay, cool. So then that leaves us with 15 minutes and one more song. And how long is the other song?
4:16.
Okay, cool.
15 seconds.
And then don't like cut it. I'll start
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, okay, now. 5 seconds.
That voice, so heart wrenching. I love it. So hey, we are here back with Rock to Recovery Radio. I'm your host Wes Gear, and we're on KX 93.5 FM, Laguna's only FM station. The show is brought to you by, of course, KX 93.5 and New Vista Behavioral Health. And we're sitting here with my new friend. I just love you, man, and you're sharing from the heart. I appreciate that, Michael Page. And we're talking about your story playing with these rock and roll legends and David Bowie and Iggy Pop and Rolling Stones tours and all this kind of stuff. But now where we're at in your story is the fun's over. You stopped touring, you married a gal, you had a child, but the drinking, like it does, the disease progresses, and your drinking got more and more and more, where you're out of control to where your wife left you. And then you tried to quit. You didn't believe the forebodings or the warnings, right? That you could die from an alcoholic detox without medical help, right?
Right.
And you went to the hospital 6 times.
6 times. I fell down a flight of stairs, cracked my head. I was just hopeless.
Hopeless.
And my father, just before Christmas, one of the last times I saw him, I was drunk, and we got in an argument about something, and he dropped me off at my place. His last words to me was, "You're helpless, hopeless, drunk, and you disgust me."
Ugh.
And my dad died of a heart attack a week later. He never saw me sober. My poor mother, the same thing. I put everybody through hell. All my friends that just saw me killing myself. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Drinking's
Yeah.
bad.
I mean, that's what happens to us, right?
I got addicted. So, I would look at a junkie and be disgusted. But,
Yeah.
and then here I am, worse than that.
I had a sponsee like that. He only drank beer. And he would drink beer out of a can from 3 nights ago with a cigarette in it. But he would go to the support meetings, right?
Right.
And he'd be like, "I never did drugs." It's like, dude, you have dog poop all over your room. You haven't changed your shirt in over a week. You smell like it doesn't matter what gets you there. When you're in that spot, we're all the same, right?
And you know, it's what you put people through. You have no idea that you know the people that care for you.
You think you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah.
And you
It's
have no
just-
idea.
Yeah, you have no idea the trail of devastation that you're just leaving from behind is just and your
Tornadoes, right?
Your friends just get fed up at some point. My family got fed up, and how long can you watch somebody kill yourself? But so it ended up basically homeless in San Diego. I had a little place behind the San Diego Zoo in a canyon where I would go collect my morning cigarette butts from a church that looked like these people were rich because they left half cigarettes. So I'd take my little thing of, and figure out how to steal a bottle of vodka from someplace. I don't know why it always ends up vodka with alcoholics, but it does.
I don't know
Vaughn's
why.
vodka was my favorite, which has nothing to do with vodka. It's all chemical stuff. But I remember it was raining and being in the park, and it just dawned on me what happened. It used to be Mike Page, and it
Moment of clarity.
yeah. Well, it wasn't really clarity. It was just disgust that this isn't
Okay.
working anymore. So I went to my little brother's place, and he actually made a telephone call from a guy. He said, you can't keep doing this. Like, Mom has passed away, Dad has passed away. We have nobody else here. You're going to die. And I can't deal with it. Nobody can deal with it anymore.
This is your little brother?
You need help, my little brother, guy. And he made a call, and a guy got on the phone, and he said, hey, I understand you're looking for, you might need some help. And I said, yeah, I think we do. I think I do. And he said, well, call me when you're ready that you do. If you think you do, then maybe you're not ready. But it's like, yeah, I'm ready because I got no place to sleep tonight or whatever. But he put my
How
brother-
long were you homeless for?
about 6-8 months,
a
whatever.
long
You know,
time.
I could keep little jobs here and there, working in guitar shops. I wanted a rock and roll guy in the guitar shop until I started having a pint of vodka for lunch or whatever. It wouldn't last. None of my jobs would last very long.
Sure. And so what happened with that guy?
Well, he first he told my brother, he put my brother back on the phone, and the good news when it was done, he said, listen, I'll come and pick you up tomorrow morning, and I'll get you backstage pass. I know a place that'll take, it's a shelter or whatever that'll take you in, and I'll get you backstage
Did
pass.
you just use that lingo to like?
Yeah,
Kinda-
make it like rock and rollish or whatever.
Did you know he was doing that, or did you buy it?
No, I was at that time, I was just shot. I was done.
You're
I was
like,
ready
okay,
to
it
do
sounds
anything.
great.
Yeah. So he put my brother back on the phone, and next thing my brother goes, well, we're going to the liquor store, and we're getting you a quart of vodka and pack of smokes. And it's like, really? Where'd this come from? And he's going, well, it's going to be your last. That's his one that he just told me to do this. So he took me to 1111 Island, the detox center downtown, and just the street drunk place, a holding tank or whatever. But he took me to a hospital, got me a prescription for Dilantin, whatever it was, to stop cell withdrawal seizures. I had to have that before going into treatment, and took me into a treatment center, and told me they're going to feed you, bathe you, don't worry about anything. It's a 10-day program. You're going to detox. You have the medication, the whole thing. And you need to do me a favor. When you walk in that place, I know the hell that you're going through, the hell that is your life right now. When you get inside, look back outside and wave to me and recognize that all your problems will be back outside. Listen to what they're saying in there.
Wow.
Because apparently he had gone in there many years earlier, and he said just all you need to do is just listen with an open mind. So I did my detox thing 4 days. Or
That's
whatever.
cool that you remember that.
Yeah.
In the state you're in, that
I-
really impacted you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't remember much of the 4 days.
Right.
But then I had the moment of clarity in a room of 40 people. They're all downtown street drunks. They ran the statistics of what possibilities of recovery were, and they said out of you 40, it's only 1 or 2 are going to be sober. The next 10 years, the rest are going to be dead in prison. And I look around the room and I said, well, of course they're talking about me because these are all bums. And then all of a sudden, I said, wait a minute, how did I get in here? How did I get in there with the bums? I happened to listen to what they said, and they said you've got a fatal progressive disease that there's no cure for. And I kept waiting for a catch line or a phrase to
So
say,
that- yeah.
it was like, so you're just going to leave me there? That's
Yeah.
what the reality is. And they said the only chance that you have is to get real with your creator, whoever that might be. You need to ask for help. And you need to, there's a program, a 12-step program. If you take those suggestions, you possibly get a 24-hour retrieval. And this is what it is you need to do. And you need to do it immediately. So I went to bed that night, And I remember it's a jail cell. I'm looking at bars in the windows in a full moon. It was right around Halloween, October 20th. And I put my hands together to do the prayer. I'd just say, hello, testing, God, is this mic on? This is Mike. You probably know it's Mike. God, hello, is this mic on? And all the dilly-dallying, I think I might need help. Maybe I think all of a sudden it was just cut the crap. God, I need help. Please help me. And that's what happened. It was crazy.
Powerful.
I had an experience that night, and I was rocking in the fourth dimension. I don't really hardly remember anything. I
Really?
remember waking up in the morning and everything was different.
Wow.
And I had no idea what it was, but everything was different.
Wow.
And it took me a while to figure out what it was, and what it boiled down to is I got what I asked for. I got help. He took that addiction off of my shoulders, and I wasn't strapped with it anymore.
That's incredible.
It was crazy, and I was scared because it was the first time ever that that was released. And they mentioned that they have recovery programs that you might consider going into.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a recovery house in California called Pathfinders. It was the
I've heard of it.
oldest recovery home in California with the highest rate of recovery, which is still devastatingly low,
Right.
like 20% or whatever.
Which I do not like the stats, because
It
really
shows
when
you what-
well, that's true. But of the people who are really, truly willing and do the work, I think the recovery rate is 98%. It's more about, like, when
Yeah.
they say only 5% recover, yeah, the other 95% don't do what it takes to recover,
Well,
in
that's
my
it.
opinion. In my opinion and
Originally,
experience.
they
Yeah.
were saying, are you ready to go to any length?
Right.
And I said, yeah, except I do have a daughter that I need to blah, blah, blah. And they're going, wait a minute, that's not any length. Yesterday,
Right.
you said you were willing to go to any length.
Yeah.
I almost
And that-
talked my way out of getting into a recovery home that way. I told them I couldn't say 9 months. I couldn't dedicate that
You had
time to it.
limitations.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
they said, well, good, thanks for telling us, because we don't need you then. We got another 50 guys in line here.
Ugh.
And I was like, oh my God. So I got into Pathfinders, and I listened to what they said, and I found the community that was there where I wasn't a completely alone guy that was crazy. There were other people that were drinking like I was drinking, and I recognized it was in that camaraderie. That's how the program works, talking one alcoholic to another.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's like,
you're
oh,
not
you mean
alone.
I'm not from Mars, and I don't have all these problems. And then you can start laughing at it. What's the worst one you had? And that happens to all my rock friends. And
Right.
I'm so grateful now for the rock and roll guys to see where us older guys went wrong, and well, that are still alive. Most of them are dead.
Sure.
And they got hip to what it is, that lifestyle. You can't really do any of that. But
What are you gonna do? I joke, but I say, what are you gonna do? You gonna like shoot dope like a gentleman and have a nice little family and be 60-year-old and just shoot dope once in a while? You know what I mean? What are you gonna do? Smoke meth just like a gentleman and just have a little tweaker family?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
just like
It's just not.
normal people get it out of their system. They do it for
Yeah.
a bit, and they say, and it's not for them or whatever. But when you're addicted and whatever, but so I did the full 9-month program, and they taught me everything. They taught me that the world doesn't revolve around me, that there's other things.
That's earth-shattering.
And for Thanksgiving, we would go to Goodwill and do turkey dinners and clean up and do this.
So you
helping
give it
others.
back, being a service.
Oh,
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I started like, oh, I get it. If you help other people and you pull yourself out of your hamster cage, stupid thinking mind or whatever, long enough to help somebody else, then everybody benefits from it. I just learned the simple things: how to make my bed, how to be responsible. It was really tough. We're going through the steps with my sponsor about how do I dress my daughter, where there was years of being on the road or being drunk and not being a good dad. And I worked with him and wrote her a letter and asked her at some point in the future if you might consider letting me have another chance of being the best dad that I can. And I started a new relationship with my daughter that's the best. She's in the south of France right now. I'm just proud papa all the way.
I love that
in
stuff.
south of France, working with a special effects company that does special effects for movies for the motion picture industry. She's traveling like her dad did. She just London,
Incredible.
Germany, and so she's been working with me for. So when I got sober, and I didn't want to know about music, rock and roll. I didn't want to get into doing any of that, but I started scoring for film, and I got picked up by a company in San Diego, Passmore Lab through a friend of mine. Daryl introduced me to Passmore, and they were doing 3D way before anybody else was doing 3D stereo.
Yeah.
And the National Geographic type quality. They hired me to be their music composer for their projects, and I got paid way more than I did in rock and roll, and it was just like a cush job. It was unbelievable.
Isn't it crazy?
You look at all these pictures and create music for it from your libraries, and they saw I had organizational abilities, and I brought in Disney and Technicolor, some other companies like that. This is pre-Avatar, so I got hooked into technology through music, and eventually moved to Los Angeles and started my own 3D stereo company, and became a consultant for Panasonic Hollywood Laboratory, their only stereo consultant. And which is funny because I know nothing about 3D. Right now I do virtual reality.
This is the stuff that happens when you get sober.
That's
These
it.
miracles happen, right?
I just surround myself with experts that
Yeah.
know how to do this, and I position people and then just help things out. But I learned basically all these tricks that we learn in recovery that I use 10, 20, 30 times a day.
Right.
Of just like all those. I am so grateful for having those tools, and they happen. And when you recognize it, all the small stuff, all the silly sayings that they have, like don't sweat the small stuff and baby steps and all that, they just make insane sense and they work.
Yeah.
And so
That's incredible. So
when you're not totally whacked or whatever, then you can explore other things, spiritual things. And I got
that
into,
work for you?
Self-realization was
Yeah.
just a good one. They honor the saints of all religions. But now you have time to explore that and do that, and helping other people.
Which is a spiritual high in and of itself.
So now I've developed and running a virtual a VR company that is focused on wellness and therapy and helping out in positive ways.
Beautiful. So, Michael,
music is the one. Have you seen the movie Alive Inside?
I have not.
Oh my God!
I gotta see it.
Oh my God! It's Netflix. You can watch
Okay,
that.
I'm always looking for something good,
It's a guy,
especially stuff like that.
It's a guy that takes headsets, music headsets, to old folks' homes, people that have been comatose for years, and they put music on them, and you watch them come alive and dance and
Right.
jump out of a bed when they've been paralyzed almost.
Oh my gosh, I
And
gotta see
You
this.
look at
Yeah.
the power of what that is. My buddy Christian that turned me on to this, introduced us.
It's called
uh,
Alive Inside.
Alive Inside.
I'm gonna
Oh
watch
my
it tonight.
God. You'll cry. I guarantee you'll cry.
I
It shows
guarantee
the
it.
power of music. What it does is so powerful over human beings, and these people that are old.
And that's what Rock to Recovery is all about. But listen, we're almost out of time. And I could talk to you all night, and I want to just, there's so much more great. I mean, we're sitting here on Rock to Recovery Radio with Michael Page, played with Chubby Checker and Iggy Pop and New York Dolls, which turned into the Criminals,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
mean, on and on. Doing 3D stuff with the cinema and soundtracks, and I could go on and on. I mean, the story's incredible, and thank you for sharing your vulnerability and your story with us, because it's all about what we try to do in Rock to Recovery is show people out there that there is a way out, that you can be in a industry rife with challenges like a musician or entertainment industry professional, and still make it out and have a sober, incredible life that gets even better
It's
after
the
you get sober.
alternative. We didn't have one in those days, whatever, but they have, and the alternative to life and goodness is just,
Yeah.
it just makes so much sense. I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that the word got spread anyway to the younger people. You don't have to
Yep.
mess with that. You don't need to throw your life away. You can get into living.
There's a way out, isn't there?
There's a way out.
You're
and
never too sick,
That's the most important thing, is knowing that there's a way out.
and you're not alone, right?
You're not alone.
You're not alone. So, Michael Page, it is the greatest honor and privilege to have sat here with you for
So
this
cool
last
to
hour
meet
and
you
share.
and to be here at this place.
Everybody listening's probably going, this Michael Page is a cool dude, man. Seriously, your energy, and you have so much love in your heart, and I'm so happy that,
It's gratitude for being only given a second chance
hallelujah,
every day.
amen to that. So, Michael, thanks for driving down to Laguna. This is Wes Skier, Rock to Recovery Radio on KX 93.5 FM, Laguna's only FM. The show was brought to you also in part by New Vista Behavioral Health. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're out of here. Thank you, man. Come on, give me
Phones are
a
off the hook.
give me a hug, yeah.
Oops,
Oh, were
that's
they?
not the song.
Yeah.
Oh no, because we ran out of time, so
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
get it in there. Yeah. the
Oh,
other
okay.
one. We'll put on the podcast though. We'll put the song. We can put the song in and post. Yeah.
Raw Power's the song. That's what I got
Pop,
tattooed.
pop.
Oh man, yeah. You know, it happens a lot where we can't get all three songs.
Oh,
in. Yeah. Kind of like that joke on David Letterman where they always say, "Sorry, we missed that." Yes. Yeah. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. Brian Burke, yeah. Thank you guys.
That's good. We got to end with the message. There is
Yeah.
a way out.